Remember when she was, there's 9 months. Because like, June 2nd, I have on my calendar, I don't really conflict. I feel like June is dying.
Get the pre-meeting started so we can talk about as much.
June 9th. Oh, I was supposed to be gone.
Yes, he was, no, he was wrapping up that call. So I told her this at 12.
Yes, and they have me
I
there.
don't know which one was first.
I was, okay, and I would, so I was excused
Maybe.
9. Commissioner Andrew, because I don't remember seeing Commissioner Andrew recently, so that would make work. I wasn't here. I would remember seeing.
You weren't here.
I was-
Wonder he was here.
Okay, yeah, then it's the June 9th one, because I'm looking and I was out, supposed to be out of town, and I'm changing and I still.
Yeah, you know what, I listened to the dude and everything's like 70s something. When something with a vegetable?
You know,
I hear something.
And they have to say what I said.
Yeah, I'm probably sitting on, doesn't it? What's up protein? What you're. So.
This is not a good song because it's like it's too narrow right here.
You know, so let me ask you really quick. You can mark those next to each other.
Oh,
these new?
Different.
I think it's a chain. There's. Oh, yeah. I don't know specifically.
Look at that. It's pretty good, Joe.
How do you like the new chip?
Going over, you know, I don't.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, I like them.
We're good, Andrew.
Good? Yep. Okay. So we want to get started, right? Right on that. Let's get started. Okay. Let's see, looking at the agenda, like, legislative items and a work session. Minutes we can peruse as we go, but Charlie? No, Felix, who were you glad at? I'm the Felix, Charlie Felix.
Yeah, so
Phoenix or Felix or somebody.
Yeah,
Somebody help me, bail me out.
I think we're at the point now, we're pretty well ready for a public hearing on this, so that's what we'd like to do tonight. We have a county initiated, staff initiated proposal to amend the county government plan. The specific discussion that I prepared would be really include sections that are applicable to both grade east, like up in the mountains. You've got forest 5 through 10, you've got forest 1 in the canyon, and some destination recreation resource zones to make up the Ogden Mountain and Snow Basin. And so there are goals and principles that are part of the Ogden Valley General Plan that we wanted to bring over, things that were applicable to kind of give a more well-rounded general plan that covers the entire unincorporated Ewert County. Now that the recent changes that have taken place with the Ogden Valley City incorporating out, maybe some also the recent changes that staff made to the county land use code, where we've changed some of the zoning classifications and, you know, made just a refresh of the entire land use code, as well as, you know, some of the general plan amendments that are taking place to accommodate for new, new goals that we have for Western Weaver area, as well as, you know, within the county as a whole. And so what I've done is I've gone through the Ogden Valley plan, and I've selected some of those things to be brought in to the Weaver County plan, things that we have, again, things that we think are going to be helpful, things that would kind of represent not only residents in the Western Weaver area, but, you know, people even like Causeway States, some of the resort areas now, but we're seeing so much growth now in the resort areas, particularly Powder Mountain at this stage. It's a good idea to have, you know, have some representation in our general plan for those areas as well. But, so the packet that we have is, it starts out with the table of contents. And in there, what I've done is I've selected some of those areas. And the table of contents shows what I think is appropriate to be brought over to the Beaver County plan. I also have made some updates to the land area calculations as far as, you know, how much land area is occupied by forest, recreation land, shoreline, and some commercial. So that's been updated, you know, the statistics. Which that will be helpful when we're looking at, you know, making updates to the moderate income housing. Things related to that, but I've also taken the maps from the Ogden Valley General Plan, grayed out the areas that are part of the city. You see those maps included as exhibits. But once you get into the meat of what I was going to bring over is plenty of wording that would come in. You know, starting with historical areas in the Ogden Canyon and some of the you know, night sky. You also have let's see here, the recreational elements that were part of Ogden Valley Plan. There's some of the commercial, transportation and mobility. Electric power services, public safety, utilities. And so I think there's a good opportunity for us to run through some of these things and, you know, maybe pinpoint some of the things that you might feel are not necessary to be brought over. Maybe some things that that could conflict with the Western Weaver Plan. We also have a resource management portion, kind of like that really wraps up what I had brought over. Land resources and energy, fire management, water resources, wildlife resources. Oh, I also should probably mention that another important recreation area out there is the North Fork Park. So becoming quite a hot spot for mountain biking. The Eden Trails Network, they're building trails up there constantly, so it's definitely becoming a very popular place in recreation.
I think that's still part of unincorporated, that did not incorporate. Oh, I was simply incorporated.
Yeah. Yeah, if there's any questions, let me know, and then any suggestions, we could strike some of these things that I thought would be brought over, but.
Well, if we're over sufficient, we can change. If we're under sufficient, we can change, right? I mean, this is just going through it, cleaning it up, getting it all in one. If we run into problems or if we run into a problem, we can adjust, right? Perfect.
Felix,
It's a guiding document, so, sorry.
no, please.
It's a guiding document,
Yeah.
so. I'm not signing anything for flood.
Yeah, exactly. One thing we talked about when we were looking at this is kind of rebranding the name for the general plan and calling the area that's up in the Ogden Valley, East Weaver, and then West Weaver would be the area that we typically look at, instead of calling it the Ogden Valley, just so it doesn't get confused with Ogden Valley City or with Huntsville City, that everything east of the mountain, is,
East Weaver.
did that get included in there? And what's your thoughts about that as well? I'm sure.
I like the idea of saying East Weaver County, but I think it would be more descriptive to just be Weaver County and East Weaver County, because the majority is all in one area. And whenever we used west before, it just got a little confusing with like Uinta Highlands and all the
Yeah.
others. So just a thought, I mean, I'm fine either way, but my idea would be the East Weaver County and just Weaver County. I don't know if that's.
I think that's great. In the plan, we have Uinta Highlands, and then is it West Weaver? We could just include that together, all as West Weaver.
Or I guess they could be separated in the plan, just will still be. Yeah, I guess it doesn't matter, never mind.
Something, the next jumping off point for what Felix is working on, we didn't want to conflate what we're working on in the second half of this meeting, with this work here. We wanted to make sure that bringing the important Ogden Valley plans, items into the Weaver County general plan as a whole, that got done regardless of the success of the other thing that's on the agenda as well. But if this goes through successfully and the other item goes through successfully, there's no reason why we shouldn't join them together for the county commissioners to see. We're already working on the document that Tammy's been working on. The text already takes a lot of what Felix has done in merging the two together, but then also goes through the Western Weaver general plan, paragraph by paragraph, sussing out the descriptors that say this side is different than this side, right? So trying to find the things that are common on both sides and explaining it that way, and then having unique sections for each individualized planning area. West Central Weaver planning area, Uinta Highlands planning area. We're kind of thinking Ogden Canyon should be its own planning area as well, and then East Weaver planning area. And so we're kind of dividing it up 4 or 5 different ways. Even though we know that West Central has its own 4 or 5 different areas as well. We're trying to address it that way. We think that we could put together a more cohesive, unifying document that hopefully can get adopted by the end of the year. So we've got something strong to stand on for the next few years.
I like that, and I like the wording that you used as well, because I get the, just calling this Weaver, but I feel like they'll be like, oh, so we're not Weaver, you know what I mean, I don't know.
It is a designation.
Yeah, I like
Designation.
calling it West and East, honestly, just because then we're all Weaver, but we're separating Weaver from.
And I forget that West has several planning areas, so it does, we're still.
Yeah.
Yeah, it won't be as divided as, yeah.
We're hoping to have that document of having gone through the entire general plan and made it more cohesive. So we are including all of Weaver County, just like one planning commission. We're hoping to have that before you by September.
We wanted to add it to you today. I think we told you we'd have it to you today, and there's enough wordsmithing that is needed. Some paragraphs need to be completely rewritten to make it say the same thing, but more unified. So we'll have that in front of you guys next month. We figured let's get at least the map in front of you this month. The county commissioners can move on the map if they want to move on it quickly. That could allow some of the potential landowners or developers to move forward with their rezone while we hash out the little nuances of the text. Which I don't think there's going to be a lot of hashing. I think you're probably going to read what Tammy's put together and go, make perfect sense. But maybe there'll be a little bit of clear there. It's a good opportunity as well. We don't want to make it so different with wild amounts of different statistics in there, but we do want to update some of those statistics so that we're looking at more recent development trends at the very least, documenting how fast things have grown in the last 5 or 6 years versus how fast they grew the 20 years before that. But for example, probably won't overhaul all the data for the moderate income housing plan in this round. That'll have to be for future changes, but other stats that are easier to get to will okay. So that's how it all ties together. This is a stepping stone to get to the bigger picture, and if everything falls apart, at least this one can run its own way. But hopefully they merge together.
Did you say you had a map?
Yeah, so the map, that's the second item on the agenda.
Which, Chair, do you mind if I ask Liam and Charlie a few questions with you in the room together, just so I understand clarity purposes? And so you understand kind of timing of all of this. In the September meeting, if everything is approved tonight, I'm just speculating, I'm not pressuring you or anything to approve, or if you table it or deny it, but if by chance you did approve everything tonight, are you thinking in September, Charlie, you would have the ordinance, this is more maps that we're looking at here. You'd have the ordinance or the general plan language in September, and in conjunction with some rezones?
Potentially, yes, if we can get those rezones to the point that they're ready for discussion.
Okay, now,
Applicant driven rezone?
so this is where I'm going to Liam and asking you that, and you're wanting to, if they approve these things hypothetically, and I don't know if I should be doing this, but I just want
Operation.
I want to talk about this with everyone in here, that these map revisions you would take to the county commission before September separately.
Or it could be shortly after the September meeting, but yeah, we're hoping before September.
Okay, but if these map revisions were approved by the legislative body before the September meeting, are you okay with rezone applications being submitted in the September meeting?
For the new map updates.
For the map updates that were approved by the legislative body? Because I would think they would need to be approved by the legislative body in the general plan before we could approve the rezones.
Yes, they would. So the question is though, are you contemplating getting applications or something that the legislative body hasn't approved yet?
We do have applications.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, we have applications that have been submitted. And so that's where I don't want to get the cart before the horse.
Well,
And I don't know if you're understanding everything I'm saying, but I'm trying to be upfront with everything going on.
There kind of dates to rezone, we don't necessarily have to rezone in accordance with the general plan,
we
correct?
don't have to, no, the general plan is just the guidance.
Right.
But I guess the question is, do the applicants know that they're submitting for a rezone? Hoping that the general plan gets updated accordingly, and then if it doesn't get updated, just another reason the commissioners could deny their rezone. So they're okay with that, they've been, as long as they're fully aware and fully informed, and it doesn't concern them. That is totally fine, as long as the applicants are aware that there is no guarantee on the general plan.
Okay. With everything being said on that, is there questions that the planning commission has, Liam, you have, or Charlie that you have that we can discuss in this public forum?
So I just have one comment or a concern addressing your concern. Are you afraid, or not afraid, but are you concerned with the fact that we're gonna do a legislative change on the general plan and then quickly implement the possible zoning changes based on those changes that have been made to the general plan? And I guess my question just would be, is there a concern that you specifically have toward that end? Or is it just the timing of it that you're concerned about?
I'm concerned about transparency and time. Okay, just making sure that everything's out in the open about everything that has been submitted, and that you're prepared for some of these things coming before you without going to a work session. And so that's where I talked to the chair and vice chair, and I'd like to get all the planning commission's take on it. Because I'm wondering, timing wise, if you would want to have maybe in September and in October, maybe to have two meetings. One being I know,
I
it's a
knew that
lot.
was coming.
It's a lot. Yeah, and I totally understand. I mean, but I'd like to at least have a quorum, but to have a work session in. And I'm just throwing this out there on the table to accomplish everything that has been submitted, that we have a work session. In each one of those months, and then maybe the second. Meeting in those months being the public hearing. Just so that you guys aren't cold caught on some of the results.
Okay, and the applications, are there anything that we've seen before at all? Do we know
That was my
anything?
question.
No, we
No?
have not seen them
Okay.
because they're.
Did the McFarland one not come?
It did, the
Yeah, I was
McFarland
gonna
one.
say.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, so then,
That was not a shocker.
yeah, so that one you're not cold caught on.
And I
What's-
thought, and Nelson Holmes has come to us, and then.
Yeah,
That's McFarland, okay,
Yeah,
that's one of the
that's
things.
my part. So maybe we don't need to have another work session.
Yeah.
Maybe we could just do it in a regular meeting.
It depends on how much detail the commissioners are coming.
Yeah. Yeah,
What
what,
depends on how much Charlie changed.
what.
There isn't gonna be that much.
I don't think so, and based off of really what your conversation tonight, looking at the maps, that will tell us how they should be doing their rezone and their concept plan. And so I think that'll give all that information. One item that hasn't been formally applied for yet, there's one more, quote unquote rezone coming through, and I think that'll be from, Westbridge. Where they're looking to grab a little bit more acreage on the east side of the river, which might also.
But we already discussed that in this meeting, not what they, but. We're,
The possibility that.
yeah, he was at, what's his name from Westbridge was here and he said, we're looking at that land and the applicants want, so I think that was part of our decision for the legislative.
Okay. Okay.
I do, I mean, even if we table, I'd like to have the public hearing sooner rather than later so that we can get the public's input. And if we do table, then at least we have the public hearing and their input sooner.
Yeah.
I don't know, I guess it depends. It is nice to get the work session and get the developers on board, but where we've worked with both of these developers quite a bit and they should know what to expect from us, then it's more the public's input.
I think that myself, if the work sessions are necessary, let's have them. And I've already indicated that to Rick Casey. I think you felt the same way.
Cuts into
Yeah.
hunting time and.
But I think that your point, everyone's point, I think we've seen this. I think we've been through a lot with a lot of these, with most of the developers, the two probably are involved here. So I think that we all know each other well enough in this room that if staff feels like we need the extra work sessions, great. If they don't, that's fine too.
Okay.
I think I would say, I'll leave it up to your discretion, but I think that to make a quorum, I think we could probably make a quorum if whenever we need it to be. I'll make that, I'll make that commitment. Sounds like Casey will make that commitment.
I think it's fair for both sides, because yes, it makes it so we're one of it, but it also makes it so there's not surprises with the developer either.
Yeah.
Because if I was the one proposing something, I would like to hear it here before going in there and being like, oh, I'm completely caught off guard what I thought. Yeah.
And it's true to prep what they present to the public. They don't want the public seeing us against it. The public and the planning commission against it. They want to at least see that they're meeting
Yeah.
the representation that we have.
But that
Or-
discussion can happen before.
It gives them
Okay,
an
that makes sense.
opportunity,
That
if there's
makes sense.
something that we don't want or like, they have an opportunity to change that and get it straight before we go to public hearing. That's how I feel about it.
And I really like the work session before we have meeting. Like, it's nice that everything that we're talking about is fresh from last week
Mhm.
and not like last month and then we're like, oh yeah, that's what we talked about. I feel like I can remember better in a week's time than
Yeah.
4 weeks' time.
Okay.
We can go to that.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah,
Together.
if you guys are, okay, if we have time.
Thanks for that info.
So the guys, I would try and make a slider. Apparently ChatGPT is actually pretty good at doing this, so I don't need one. I just didn't have time to get it out to you.
That's cheap.
I know, I cheated. That's, made it easier, right? So I emailed this out to each of you, a few minutes ago. It's if you want to hold up on your phones while we're looking at this. I just wanted to make sure it's really easy for you guys to see the differences. Before I change the slider over, a few things to note. Icons, overlays, things that aren't future land use oriented are not on the proposed version, which you guys have seen from your packet. But, you know, you could just grab the slider and just bring it across. So as we bring it across, you can see these differences over here in the western corridor area. That's over by 8300 West. Nothing different than what you guys already saw.
Wow, did I do that?
It did.
I'm impressed.
It actually, so before I move it over even more, it said, yeah, I can do this, but I noticed that your maps aren't quite the same scale and aren't quite lined up the right way. Would you like me to align it? He said, please. Okay. So you can see, we're just kind of wiping some of those icons off to make it a little easier to see, but the biggest change is right there, west of the river.
Can we do that on our computer,
You can on your phone.
on our phone?
Yeah, so if you went to your email and you click on the link that I just emailed over to you, you'll have that. So as you can see here, the village area, right, along 2550 expands just a little bit. It also crosses the potential highway area to the west. You've got that big green blob in the middle, that's the DWR property. But the yellow kind of wraps around that, and then potentially connects under the freeway, if the freeway goes there, to the north. We did the crosshatch. Can I zoom in on this?
Is that big green area where the state wanted to take their road through?
Yes, yep, that green
That's
area,
why, cause there was nothing there.
yeah, potentially, yeah, but it's the waterfowl management area.
Oh, it's tough, that'd be tough.
Yeah. So we showed, we're showing the highway going around now. The crosshatch orange is mixed residential overlaid over medium to large, single family.
What's the dotted yellow?
The little speckles mean that it might be wet there. I'm honing that in. I just didn't have the chance to get that ready for you. Yeah, but I'm using aerial photography and digital elevation models to show us the differences of what's wet, what's not wet. So we can kind of get a little bit more precise with what our expectation or understanding of the area is now. The only reason to have it on the map is just to remind us as development comes in, as rezones come in, that, hey, let's ask a couple more questions.
You just overlay a core map or not?
Yeah, well, no, sorry, not an Army Corps map. I have been using the Army Corps map to inform me as well, but it's really, I'm just looking at aerial imagery, what ground is wet, and I'm looking at the digital elevation models. DEMs for the area to show where the depressions are, depressions being.
Core's more accurate.
No, core is definitely not more accurate. Core has a very, very thick.
You spent too much time in the coffee shop.
Yes. So.
While they were out here promotion.
Right, I'm thinking we're a lot more accurate, 'cause the Corps does it the same way, they look at aerial, they look at digital elevation models, they look at stereo, whatever that's called, stereography or whatever. To kind of address how these areas look from different perspectives to identify whether or not they should mark it as wetlands, and then any area with question, could it be wetland? They circle that, right? What I've done is I've just gone in and looked at actual wet places of ground. So the Corps really has a broad brush. They kind of circle big polygons around an area that might be, just to make sure they don't miss anything. I'm looking at it a little bit more precise. And end of the day, both are going to be applicable. The Corps maps will be applicable still, and the general plan map will just be a reminder that someone may need to look at the map, the Corps map. So, okay. The orange crosshatch is the mixed over the single family. We talked about that, and then down here you got the orange crosshatch over the vehicle-oriented commercial. So looking at the west side of what might be a freeway for potential vehicle-oriented big box truck stop, whatever it may be, and then mixed commercial surrounded by mixed residential as the village core. So one side of the freeway will be the Walmart, the other side of the freeway will be the, the Main Street, basically. If the freeway goes in, otherwise, one side of the county boulevard, one thing, or one side of with the possibility of getting some development in here, especially in this area here, there's some pretty decent land that could be developed. If you can get over some of those wet spots, and then coming up here, you can see same conversation from last time, just took the street regulating plan map, the changes that we made and made it more applicable. You can see right in this area here how kept the mixed, the vehicle oriented commercial, but put a crosshatch for potential mixed residential, closing in the corners. And then over in here did the same thing. This area here, we talked a little bit about, but didn't go into a lot of detail. So I just wanted to make sure you guys were comfortable. Let me slide it back over so you can see the difference. So just big solid vehicle oriented commercial area. This version pretty much preserves the same vehicle oriented area, but allows some of it to be mixed residential and mixed residential. Okay, any questions?
I like that too.
Took some effort to get here, but yeah. I am, let's see, from where we are here, if you guys are good with this and you say, let's go, or if you give me directions to make some changes, I am making just little accuracy tweaks as well, that don't show up on this map. For example, I'm grabbing the concept layouts from all of the development agreements that we've approved and making sure the road layout is kind of following somewhat what those show. So that'll be one little change between what you're seeing here and maybe what the published map looks like. And then as far as all those icons go, or the overlays, I'll just, come on. Great, broke. I'll just make sure they get back in the right locations. Some of them need to be moved a little bit. So, there was one thing that I forgot to talk to you guys about. The current plan shows all of our village areas have public space and the street area kind of designed around a public space. You can see this here. I forgot, I actually didn't turn the layer on. I was thinking right in this location in here, kind of same as it was on the current map. Identifying a spot on the ground where that could potentially go. Would you guys have any concerns if that was added later? Okay. About the same acreage as what you saw on the other version of the map. Okay. You want me to do this a little bit more?
Page one, page two. I have two programmers in my family, and they're sure that AI is a god. Because he screws up with you.
Yeah, 100%. You have to pay a lot of attention on here, but sometimes it takes a lot longer than.
Well, actually, okay, they're really good, you do have to watch it. Other than that, I have to train. Thank you.
Felix first.
Mm-hmm. I thought you liked it.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Weaver County Planning Commission meeting for August 11th. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Over planning commissioners are here, except for Commissioner Aydelotte, to be excused. Commissioners, on item number 1 for the minutes, I would make the recommendation, since we did get a chance to talk about it in the pre-meeting, to maybe postpone the approval of these, because a few of us have noticed some discrepancies that probably need to be corrected. Nothing huge, but we need to make the record as good as we can. So that would be my recommendation. Any comments or concerns about that? Do we need a motion for that, Liam, or is that?
Yeah, you can motion over and over.
So I'll ask a motion to hold over the minutes until our next meeting. So moved. Wait a minute, yeah, I can't make the motion. I'll ask for the motion, so moved in a second. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Okay, we have 2 items on the agenda tonight, both legislative, public hearings. Item number 2.1 GPA 2025-03. Public hearing on Weaver County Planning Staff driven request to amend Weaver County General Plan to include elements from Ogden Valley General Plan for areas outside of the Ogden Valley City Incorporated area. Ready to go.
Thank you, Chair. As you review this, you're going to be making a recommendation to the legislative body. So you'll just have a public hearing on this, take public input, make a decision on what you'd like to do with it. And then that's a forwarded recommendation to the county commission. As you have your public hearing, make sure you open and close the public hearing with a motion. And as you review this, you'll want to make sure that you're meeting the intent of the general plan. And also, as you review this too, just bear in mind that the general plan is a guiding document. It's not an actual ordinance. So it's a guiding document of how ordinances are created. So with that, and we'll look at rezones as well. So with that in mind, Mr. Lleverino is the one who will be presenting this from staff.
Thank you. When you're ready, John.
Hey, thanks. Good evening, Commissioners. I wanted to stand up and just thank you for the good work that you do, the time you spend on these type of projects. Some of it can be very time consuming and coming up on the end of the year and try and squeeze in as much as we can before the holidays. So appreciate your time looking over this. So staff has taken some time over the past couple of months to select out some of the things from the Ogden Valley General Plan. So as most people are aware, the Ogden Valley City is now up and running up there. So it took in Liberty, Eden, parts of Huntsville, and portions surrounding the Pine View Reservoir. That's actually a city now with their own form of government up there. So now, but there are some remainder areas that are outside of the city that are still part of under unincorporated Weaver County jurisdiction. And so those portions include the ski resort area, Snow Basin, Powder Mountain. We also have some recreational areas, particularly the North Fork Park. And we have some mountain communities, Evergreen, Sourdough, Sunridge, Causey Estates. So these are all forest areas where people can build cabins, go and recreate, go enjoy the forest areas of unincorporated Weaver County. We also have, that's still part of unincorporated jurisdiction, is Ogden Canyon. Ogden Canyon is also a pretty special place with some residences, some historic value, as well as a major transportation corridor for access to these recreation areas. So when selecting out some of these goals and principles, some of the elements from the Ogden Valley General Plan, we we wanted to focus and make sure that the things that we bring over to the Weaver general plan are going to be helpful. We're going to give a more well-rounded general plan that represents people throughout, the farm areas as well as people in the canyon and people in the mountainous areas. And so let me scroll to my report. And so looking at this proposal would be to a staff-driven proposal to bring in these elements. And what I've prepared for you is a short report and also conducting some analysis. So our initial analysis really was pretty straightforward. We just went and highlighted all the areas from the Ogden Valley General Plan in yellow. And then from there, we went through, refined some of the language, removed some references that maybe even just words that say Ogden Valley, changing them over to Weaver County, or that way it's better tailored to unincorporated area. And so I prepared several model motions in the staff report that can be helpful when you're ready to make a recommendation to the county commission on this. And also we have a table of contents that lays out exactly what parts of the Ogden Valley plan we think are applicable and should be part of the Weaver County's plan, as well as some maps. So the maps that I've done is a pretty crude representation. The finished product will probably look much better once we get our professional GIS mappers on this to create some nice maps. But in the long run, what I've done is I've selected several maps and grayed out Ogden Valley City area. And what you're left with is some highways, some recreation areas, some forest areas. And so we have just kind of working through the selection will be the historic areas of the canyon, dark sky preservation. This is kind of where the dark sky started. Several years ago, we have a dark sky park up in North Fork, and they have that classification. They would like to keep that classification. And so light pollution is a big deal. And also from its inception in the Ogden Valley, it's kind of spread out to other residential development, even in the agricultural areas of Weaver County, just to minimize the impacts of residential development primarily at this point. But as further growth comes, commercial and other industrial development that could come into play, because light pollution can be a nuisance. It's a good thing to address it early. Staff has also communicated with our GIS department and got some statistics as far as land area calculations. We've made some updates to that. And here's the map showing what has been grayed out and what remains. See if I can zoom out a little bit, get a better view of that. Don't want to go too far. Okay, let's go back. New maps showing the zoning. I'll just continue down through here. We also have land use principles as far as future development in the Weaver County planning area. We have housing that is part of this. Moderate income. The map. This is showing some of the recreation areas. Commercial villages. Fort Park. say, transportation or mobility. So as residential development comes through in Western Weaver, you know, we focus pretty heavily on making road connections throughout. Some of that might not be possible in the forest areas, but we could still almost major thoroughfares. We can look at opportunities for multiple modes of transportation as far as street adjacent pathways, as well as, you know, trails, dirt trails for recreation. Let's see, this is an image of Ogden Canyon. Ogden City is working on their path through the Ogden Canyon. They've required certain segments so far, but it's not quite complete. I think that eventually that could be a very nice attraction for people looking to walk along the Weaver River, access some of those areas for recreation and fishing. Let's see here. Transportation. I'm just going to quickly go through. And so what the finished product would pretty much look very similar to what I have as far as text. The maps might look a little different with some refinement and some polishing, maybe get some nicer design. But overall, I think the elements that I've selected will be included with the general plan that is being forwarded by staff. So you'll be able to see a more complete picture of what that will look like next month's public hearing. But I think that pretty well covers what I wanted to speak of today. If there's any questions or suggestions, I'd be happy to take those and those changes.
Commissioners? And, you know, we've been over this a lot in work sessions, so I think we're all pretty familiar with what the changes are. And thank you, Felix, you've done a really good job on this. Appreciate it. Okay. So commissioners, if you're ready, I'll ask for motion to open a public hearing on this item.
Sure, I'll make the motion to open a public hearing.
Have a motion, I'll ask for a second.
Second.
Have a motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we are in public hearings for this item. If you have any comments, come on up to the podium, give us your name and address in 3 minutes. Happy to hear what you have to say.
If it's a 3 minutes that's holding you back, it doesn't have to be a full 3 minutes. So
All right, commissioners, I'll ask for a motion to close public hearing.
So moved.
Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Next thing I'll ask for is a motion for item GPA 2025-03, unless you have any discussion you want to have.
Here on the motion. My glasses. I move we forward a positive recommendation to the county commission for file number GPA 2025-03, a finding staff driven application to amend the Weaver County General Plan to import text and maps from the Ogden Valley General Plan that pertain to the lands outside of the Ogden Valley City Incorporation boundary. I do so with the following findings. The changes are supported by the Western Weaver General Plan. The proposal serves as an instrument to further implement the vision, goals, and principles of Western Weaver General Plan. The changes will enhance the general health and welfare of Western Weaver residents. I think we need to say, should we include Western Weaver on that? I guess we're still calling it Western Weaver, right? They're just Weaver General Plan.
Weaver County General
Plan, so. And that would be my motion.
Okay. A motion, do I ask, have a second? Yeah, okay. Have a motion and second. Let's see, we'll do a roll call. Commissioner McCormick? Aye. Commissioner Lindsey?
Aye.
Commissioner Wicker?
Aye.
Commissioner Collins?
Aye.
Commissioner, Novell?
Aye.
Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Felix. Thank you, staff. Next item on our agenda, item 2.2, GPA 2026-01, public hearing on a proposed amendment to the unincorporated area general plan to update future land use map, update recent growth trends, and consolidate recent plan amendments into a single cohesive unincorporated county general plan. A lot of uns in that, sorry. Director Kroger.
Thank you, Chair. Also, as you look at this, same as the last one, you want to open and close the public hearing, with motion. You're making a recommendation to the legislative body with this. As you do so, you want to make sure that the changes fit the needs of the area and comments that you receive from the public, that you feel are germane for this area. Also, when you look at this area, you may remember that we did the general plan a few years ago. And so this is an update to that area. So we just want to take off segments that time throughout, excuse me, throughout the time general plans existing. So we just don't have a huge overhaul one specific time. They're looking at specific areas throughout. So that's why we're looking at this, and Mr. Ewert will be presenting.
Thank you.
Thank you, planning commissioners. So we got the map of our street markers there, but did you get, more full screen?
Yeah.
Let's see if I can help with that myself here. Okay. Couple things. We had hoped to have some draft language for you guys that go over some of the adjustments that we needed to make the Western Weaver General Plan more of a cohesive, unincorporated Weaver County General Plan, including what Felix has been working on. As we got into it, the nuances of the paragraphs and languages it really favored pretty heavily West Central. And so we're trying to find a way to make that work without doing huge dramatic changes to the plan. So we're asking you to forgive us for not being able to bring that to you guys tonight to review, but we'll have it on the agenda next month. And we'll do it in the same way we did the general plan, just with track change so you can see all that. But in tonight's meeting and for tonight's hearing, we're asking for you to look at the map. There's no reason with that text. There was nothing being proposed in the text that would change how the text applies to the map. And so we're asking you to look at the map at this time, and if you're comfortable with it, you could forward on a positive recommendation for adoption of the map changes to the county commissioners. If you're not comfortable with it, if you'd like to see some changes, you would feel free to table it tonight and give staff some direction on what you'd like to see different. With that in mind, I did put together a little slider so that you could see the differences between the before and the after. So right now what's on the screen is the before. And as I slide this slider over, you'll see the after. So I'm just going to kind of stop and go over each area that is proposed to be changed, so you can see a little bit more detail and a little bit more finer view. You can see the changes over there. This is 8300 West. And I stopped the slider right on 7500 West. So between 7500 and 83, if you'll recall, the port boundaries that the county adopted didn't exactly align with the general plan document. So what we did here in working with you guys is we made them align, and we provided a buffer between the residential and the more intense manufacturing or industrial types of operations that might happen out before. The crosshatch is intended, so the brown area just occurs to me that I'm not showing you the legend, but your paperwork has the legend, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask. The brown area is for office, tech, or business park. It's a good buffer between residential, and then the crosshatch brown is intended to represent both. You can do light or industrial in that area, or you can do office, business park, tech area. So that's change number one. Change number two is right here. So you can see between the river and 5100 west, you can see the changes. So a lot of that green represents natural open green. And so that is showing as potential for future development. You can see 2550 south and 5100 west, there's a village node. This version shows a little bit bigger with the possibility of having an interchange there on 2550. Interchange was planned, assuming the freeway goes there. Interchange was planned in the previous plan. This just looks at it for broader vision of the area. As we look at this area here, one of the reasons why it was painted green in the plan is most of the areas of unincorporated Weaver that is in FEMA's current floodplain boundary was painted green initially a few years back when we were looking at all this. With the creation of the West Bridge project, as well as some interest in land development to the east of the river here, we began to realize that the land is not very challenging to remove from the floodplain. And so with the West Bridge project, if you remember on that project, what we did was we said any area that's marked as floodplain, you can't develop there until you get the federal government to change their map. So that means they've got to go through the federal process to either recontour the land or do something to offset, provide science if the science is out of date, do something to offset the reason why it was marked as floodplain in the first place. So there's a formal process. Developers actually often develop in floodplain areas. They just have to meet certain standards to do that. What we've been asking developers to do is take it out of the flood. So one thing in the West Bridge project that will help them is they agreed to do a master flood and stormwater management plan in advance of any kind of development that would be in the floodplain and in advance of trying to take land out of the floodplain. So as we've looked at that and realized the potential of how that floodplain area could potentially be brought out of floodplain with a little bit of elevation gain or with more detention areas, we thought to look at this area a little bit harder. And we did that in concert with landowners who were looking at the possibility of getting a little bit more development potential out of the property. So just to kind of show again, the crosshatched orange that you see in this area here, orange stands for mixed residential. What density is that? Answer is we don't know. The general plan says that basically says this is the type of land use designation that is supposed to stimulate that missing middle housing type. So it could be single family, it could be a little bit higher density, it could be very high density. It really just comes down to the proposal that an applicant might bring forward and whether or not the planning commission and all the county commission is comfortable with those changes. I think for the most part, we'll probably see townhomes and single families in some of these areas here. The grade block that you see here, that is still owned by the state. It is specifically set aside for waterfowl management area. And then the private properties that surround that green block here could potentially sustain some residential development and some vehicle-oriented commercial. So that's what this the pinker color, the salmon color here is vehicle-oriented commercial, and we got the crosshatch there that kind of gives you a quasi where you could do mixed residential or vehicle-oriented commercial area.
Charlie, would you mind on that map just explain how we had how the road was aligned for the West Weaver corridor and how it's being revised?
Oh yeah, great. That's actually probably a really important component. So you can see the shift in the alignment enters the West Bridge project, maybe just a little bit to the north. This leg right here, this is the south cutoff for the Weaver River. So we were thinking, let's just bump that a little bit north so we're crossing less waterways. And then as you run across this white line right here is what UDOT had proposed for that alignment. As we looked at a little closer at the area, you could see it kind of move and go around there, this area here, because when UDOT put lines on the map, they apparently didn't notice that this land was purchased with restricted federal funds for waterfowl management. So they would have had to go around anyway. So we wanted to go around, we worked with, the landowner and, landowners, the folks who may potentially buy from the landowner here to find the driest place. And if we're looking, anywhere essentially from, what is that, 2200 south and further south, anywhere across the river, really finding the way to get through, the properties in this area is probably the best and most dry location. So that's why we show that reconfiguration. You can see kind of peeling off from 5100 a little bit further to the north. And then essentially going around that state property. Trying to find the high ground on that, not moral high ground, the physical high ground. And then as you can see around here in this area here, we're just looking at the same kind of 2.9 units to the acre, medium large residential area. Looking up at 1800 and 1600, the difference there. So we had shown 1800 going up to 16 and back down again. The whole reason was because the floodplain was really constrained to almost just the riverbanks at that one point. And so, or in an attempt to just avoid as much floodplain area, we swung it up to 1600. That's when we made the map. When we approved the West Ridge project, we had them commit to sticking with an 1800 alignment. And so it only makes sense to make sure our map shows what we told them that we wanted. And so you can see how that's been shifted. I just took the colors that buffered 1600 next to this potential vehicle oriented node and just extended it down to essentially keep with be in keeping with what we had planned for, just in a slightly different location. And then last area up in here. So we've been talking a little bit about the street regulating plan for the West Weaver Village area and the form-based code as it could be applied to the area. It hasn't been applied to the area yet. And as we've been looking at that, we kind of narrowed up, or we shrunk a little bit the footprint of that potential commercial area to focus on 4700 west and essentially 900 south and maybe a potential future 1000 south. So when we took the future land use map, words are hard right now for some reason. When the county commissioners adopted the future land use map that you guys had recommended a few months ago, they adopted that maybe 2 months ago or so. It took this shape. You can see in the change, the after version. And so we figured we probably should change the map to reflect what we did with those planning efforts. So a lot of what you're seeing here is we took action. The action wasn't exactly what the map showed, but it was pretty darn close. It was enough for the map to still be implemented or still be applicable. But now that we're here making adjustments, it just makes sense to get in and carry those over. So, any questions for me on any of this? Really don't have anything else other than that, unless you want to look at more in detail in your thoughts.
And we've been through this a lot. Another item that we've put a lot of effort into, and thanks for all your effort on this, Charlie, Tammy, staff. Looks good.
Thanks to those of you guys who get paid to do this for you guys.
Thank you. Commissioners, any questions before we open up our public hearing? Concerns? Okay, I'll ask for a motion.
So moved.
Got a second?
Second.
Have a motion second, all in favor of the public hearing? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we are going to go into public hearing, same rules as before. 3 minutes at the podium, give us your name and address and let us know what you think.
All right, Tom McFarland, live at 5579 South 7100 West in Ewert. Just wanted to stand up and say thanks to Charlie and the staff for the work they put into this. a lot of effort went in, they spent a lot of time talking to the individual landowners out there. We had a pretty big meeting with pretty much everyone that owns more than an acre in that particular area, and from what we found, everyone's on board with this, and makes a big difference, just for their future potential that they could, someday, most landowners out there don't intend to sell their land anytime soon, but eventually that may happen, and this opens up that possibility for them versus the previous land use map that just kind of painted a broad brush of green that it didn't really belong there in the first place. So that's all. Just wanted to give a positive recommendation on my part and say to Charlie and staff the work they've done. So
Thank you.
Pat Burns, 2702 North Burns Lane. I own quite a bit of property where this is all being planned, and I don't think we should have any development. I'm just kidding. No, there's definitely been a lot of thought and a lot of, design and alignment on this process. I do definitely support it. Actually, right next to the Black Pine M&T zone, I own property there, and I've talked to all of the residents in that area, and we also want to be added to this new change, just right as the corridor is going right across 12th Street, right where the new lift station is going in. That would just be one recommendation, is that we have that parcel added to this part as well. And that I have had a chance to meet with all the landowners in that immediate area, and we do have an application ready to go in. Other than that, this has been great, and again, well thought through. Thanks.
Mr. Burns, before you leave,
Yes.
would you just clarify what you mean by added, like what change do you want for that area? Are you asking?
So right now, it's all R115, that's all in the yellow, and we are looking to change that to an R3, yep, right there, right where Charlie's got his arrows going around there. And I've talked to all 4 quadrants, all the people on northwest, east, south, yep, all. And everybody is in agreement with making the same type of a change.
What changes that, sorry, specifically?
From R115 to like an R3. That makes sense. And I had actually presented that about a year and a half ago, or so, we just mined the parcels. And then I was asked by the commissioners to get all the landowners involved, and so we had done that. But other than that, this is great. It's again, well thought through.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. All right, commissioners. I'll ask for a motion to close public hearing.
Sure, I'll motion to close public hearing.
Have a motion, and I'll ask for a second. Second, have a motion, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? Okay, we're now out of, public hearing. Commissioners, any questions or comments?
Just regarding the requested change, I'm not as familiar with this area. I'm concerned about over designating more density. We've already designated on this map, but I'm not sure if staff could fill us in on like what's proposed or why the vision is the way it is.
Before they do, can I make a suggestion?
Absolutely.
That maybe we just go with what's already been presented for today and just allow for further discussion on that on another work session or something like that. Would that be appropriate? Because I know that we're gonna be looking at this really thoroughly with what was said by, Mr. Ewert earlier with looking at closer areas. So maybe we make that part of that discussion. Is that okay with everybody?
That's fine with me.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. Any further discussion or concerns, questions? Okay, I'll ask for a motion on item GPA 2026-01.
I I motion that we forward a positive recommendation for item 2.2 on our agenda tonight, GPA 2026-01. Proposed amendment to the unincorporated area general plan to update the future land use map, update recent growth trends, and consolidate recent plan amendments into a single cohesive unincorporated countywide general plan. I do this with the findings that the proposed amendments to general plan will better support current residents and by better designing future development in Weaver County, and also to clarify the code for recent changes in the county.
Thank you. Commissioners? I've got a motion. Do you want any discussion on the motion? Okay, I'll ask for a second.
Second.
A motion for second. Commissioner Lindsey? Aye. Commissioner McCormick? Aye. Commissioner Florence?
Hi.
Commissioner Wicker?
Hi.
Commissioner Bell? Aye. Chair votes aye as well. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda, item number 3, public comment for items not on tonight's agenda. Okay. Item number 4, remarks from planning commissioners. Commissioners, any thing to report? Okay. Next item on our agenda is the director's report.
We would like to invite you, if you haven't already, has an email came out about the Utah conference? Okay, all right, we'll get that sent out to you.
Okay.
Okay, the dates that, that's scheduled for is the September 9th and 10th. And it's in Layton, the conference center there, so, I'll have Crystal shoot that out to you, but you're all invited. We'll pay the registration fees and all that stuff, but it's a 2-day, event. If you only can make it one day, or if you're gonna make it half of that day, what did you think? So just, respond to the email, I'll give a Crystal. I'm sure that goes out to you.
Director, that covers our mandatory training as well, right?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm not going unless I get credit on.
You'll get credit. And then also the land use, the land use institute is another good one. That's, I know some of you have been to that in the past, and that's really nice because it deals with planning and realtors. And so you get a wide variety of perspectives, and I really like that because you have you get the perspective of the realtors and the planning on the same side, and they butt heads sometimes, but at the same time, there's a lot of good that happens with that, because ultimately we're all together, and we want to make sure that we're developing how communities should be developed. And so that's a really good conference too, and that's in October, so we'll get you to either or both, if you'd like to attend.
The Builders Association there, even more representative.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So thank you. Yeah, that's all I have.
Okay. Thanks, Director. Esquire, you go. Any
Oh,
comments?
getting fancy there. Well, thank you. I ought to make comments just because you use that term. No, I don't have anything there.
Thank you.
So that's why I thought I'm feeling good.
I'm going back essentially. Okay, so this one, we've covered everything on our agenda for tonight. I'll ask for motion to adjourn the work session. We'll take 10 minutes in between, but I'll ask for motion.
I move to adjourn the work sessions.
And a second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you. Start. Okay, we're ready to start.
Okay. Well, thanks for adding us to the work session agenda. What you have in front of you is the latest and greatest Willow Village concept. We worked with Charlie to put this together, and we wanted to bring it in for some feedback. Kicker is on this doesn't work for us. So we want to work with you to help us find something that works for you and for us. And so we've got a few things that we tried to address the changes to the general plan and the street connectivity. And I know there are a few things to discuss, but one of the we wanted to kind of see where some priorities are, because I know that one of the things that we've talked about in the last couple sessions was street layout, density, some open space, parking, and the rear versus front loading units. And so I wanted to see what you guys think of this. Like I said, we've been working with Charlie and we think this is getting us in the direction that we want to go, but for us, we're not quite there, like I said. So we wanted to get your feedback.
So what I tried. Give a few details. You okay with that?
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, you're right with that?
Yes.
Okay, so on this, the layout, what you can see that is different here, well, a couple things that we should address. We're looking at a public street on the eastern side, the easternmost street that you see going north and south. And then our street regulating plan has a street north and south on the west side as well. When we redesigned the street regulating plan, I didn't realize where exactly the property boundaries along in this particular area. And so when redesigning the street regulating plan, we actually moved a proposed roadway in the area to be essentially right on that boundary on the western side. So as well as if you look to the north, there's the subdivision that was approved just over the canal on the north side. These streets, as they're shown now line up very well. So something that I asked Selvay to look at is if we're looking at framing that block with townhomes that look outward, rear load, not looking at garages. And then when you look at the inside of the block, you've got a pathway that runs straight through the middle of the block with the fronts of the buildings looking at that pathway from the rear load. For all intents and purposes, this does look to comply with the desire, the intent of the form-based zone. I think it's a much better layout. They also strive to remove as many 8 and 7 plexes, and they did exactly what we changed the form-based code to, and they did 6 plexes or less. One area where the form-based code street regulating plan doesn't quite jive with the layout or the property configurations is up here in this corner right here. You can see they've got townhomes shown right there, but it is a different color. So the colors on the map represent the colors from the form of the street regulating plan. So these are supposed to be, according to the street regulating plan, single family lots. And when you try and fit single family lots in there, it just doesn't fit and it doesn't look good. It's just you're taking single family across the top here and you're wrapping it around, and it's a poor transition. And so I mentioned, let's see what we can do with the development agreement to allow just those 4-plex townhomes to be extended up, and then just have this street here be a single family street. So the intention with form-based is that your public streets are the primary streets of focus for design. And so as I look at this block, the intention, I think, of the form-based code is satisfied, even if the internal wasn't laid out the way that they're showing. I think internal is kind of outside out of mind. That's all private. We want to focus on what is in the public realm. So those are my thoughts on it, and I was pretty tickled when I saw this version in relation to what the form-based zone next says.
So wait, how many doors are those?
96.
Six.
It's just shy of 16 inches.
I
You got
counted
more
201.
doors by having those single families, right?
I actually counted 201, sorry. But I didn't, but I counted 201. I know it's written on there that I think our engineer didn't update the numbers on it, but I went through and counted, I got 201, but.
So Charlie, did that give them more when we give those as like fourplexes instead of single family homes, got more doors? I mean, I'm sure it's not very
So-
many, but it was.
As I did the math on it based on the layout of what you had there, the 3.78 acres, the 6.16, the 5.97. When you calculate those out, we would be allowed 208 units and we're at 201.
Okay.
So it would just be a little bit under.
So kind of the same as what we talked about in the past as far as the number of doors, right? We're still in the same.
Yeah, we're in the ballpark.
So I'm a little
Just-
confused with the form-based code.
Mhm.
I need to brush up on it. Does it give us a specific density for each of
It
these?
does now.
Okay.
It does now. So, and to answer both of your questions, first yours, I haven't been focused too much on density. Form base is a lot less about density, a lot more about how it works. So, try not to, I'm not saying you guys shouldn't focus on it, but I try not to focus on what the number is. I just want to make sure if it's a lot, we want to mitigate what traffic impacts, sewer impacts, make sure there's a level of service that is suiting meeting the needs of both the community and the development. And then aside from that, it's how does it look? And right now, we're just looking at a layout. They haven't proposed, so they've agreed to pull back on the elevation drawings that you guys looked at in favor of what we adjusted the form-based code to say. So we've got brand new standards in, we're looking at good building materials, hardy building materials, brick, rock, hardy board, stuff like that to try and get these built, and then essentially deferring the formal design of what they look like to site plan or to design review, which you guys would still approve. You'd still look at and approve.
So this mixed use, what's the density allowed in the mixed use? I don't remember ever
It's
this meeting.
20 units per acre
Okay, and then the yellow
is 11,
11.
and then the other one is 6.
So I guess my concern when I'm looking at this, like the 11 makes sense to me. But because like 20 to me says it needs to be like an apartment complex. So that we can get more open space and like to make that more dense in that area. So what I'm seeing here that concerns me is where it's all townhomes and it's spread out. There's not enough parking and there isn't any common like community space. So that's my concern with taking the density and spreading it the way it is that it's too many townhomes, not necessarily too many units, but too many townhomes for this space. And so I'd rather see like 2 apartment complexes in the red zone. And you guys, this is just what I'm seeing, because it to me doesn't lay out well as a townhome community. There's too much density for town.
Maybe this. And I know it's still an ongoing conversation as far as this part goes, but. When this property was all, and I was reminded of this a few minutes ago, but when this property was all under the same landowner, there was designated open space for parks, which would be really close to this. So for me, that open space isn't as necessary if we're still getting that because it's close. And I know that's like a huge.
It actually touches it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But
So-
is it a build dedicated park? It's a possible, but it's not.
So.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if that even matters anymore now that it's a new owner, but,
I think that was the intention, but I'm afraid that it's not connected to this land anymore.
that's when I say it matters, it still matters. Like, are the rules.
Right.
So if, with this piece of property in the form base, if we do go form based rezone on this, I'd recommend we do it on the developed property next door as well. Just to keep them, from being non-conforming. Right now, the property next door they're all non-conforming lots because they were approved under the OPRD that no longer exists anymore. And they're tied to, open space that is over on this property here. We don't formally have a conservation easement. We should have gotten a conservation easement when this was platted, but, the approval of this was based on this side of it. That project is expired to the extent of the ability to do this project or this development under that old PRUD. But as far as expiration goes, in terms of give this density in exchange for this open space, I think that's still very much an obligation that's out there. Something for the attorneys to argue about in court, though, we'll see.
So you're saying this density was given, and then we did the old PRD.
Not on this project we're looking at, but in the project next door, yes, that density was given by PRD based off of the promise of open space on the property that is west of this one.
But we're talking density,
47.
we're talking a density half of this was granted by donating the land. Right? This is somewhere around 12 overall.
Yeah.
Or a little over 12, 12 and a half, 13.
Yeah, it's a
And the
density that's
other
definitely.
The density has increased. I'm not opposed to density well designed, and I think that's what our goal is. And I'm just looking at this going, they're 20 feet wide, so those are one car garages, with no way you're going to build walls that in 19 feet would fitting 2 cars in a garage. And there's 33 parking spaces for 196 units. That, and then just having no space between them for any amenities is my concern. So that's why. What was the intent? Like, when you hear 20 units per acre, I don't think townhomes, I think apartment complex.
Yeah.
When I hear 11 units per acre, I'm like, man, that's possible to do with some nice townhomes.
Form-based supports all of the above. Whether we're looking at, the New York style brownstone, or we're looking at, townhomes, looking at apartments. It's really just a wide variety, less focused on what it is and more focused on how it appears.
Yeah.
What do you say about the 20-foot? Garage.
That's your market standard. You've got probably, I mean, let's call it 30 builders that are building substantially in your county. That is roughly the size of all those garages for a townhome. And they are, my office sits in this project where they have 20-foot wide garages right now. And they park 2 cars in there, or 1 car and all their other stuff. It depends on how different people are using it differently. Our density on that one is closer to about 15 units in the acre. We have, similar to this, the units are facing some open space between the units, and between the buildings themselves is very tight. But works great. They're selling well. They're all occupied. Building.
Where's it at?
1400 and Washington. Great project to go drive by and look and see what people are buying, because they're buying it. It's a 3-story product. I don't think 3-story will work very well from a market standpoint out in the county.
14 north, right?
Yes. So for you old timers, where the old KFC used to be.
It's south. of
Mill Creek.
1400 south. It's not south, not north.
1400 north end of town, I'm sorry.
Over the old construction.
Yeah, so just 2 blocks south of 12th Street. And I'll be on the east side of the road.
The Mill Creek.
Yeah,
Mill Creek runs
right
down
by the
through
creek.
there. You can't miss it.
That's in the middle.
So I used to be really concerned about that garage thing and everything, trying to think of it working for myself, but I'm not as concerned because of 2 things. Market, I feel like, is gonna drive it, right? If they can't sell it, then they're not gonna build it to a certain extent, I think that. And just driving around other counties and seeing what they're putting in there and seeing people living in those and being able to use those. So in places that I would have been like, nobody would want that, and they're selling. So is it a product for us personally? Maybe, maybe not, but is it a product for somebody? Maybe. I like the fact that you've split it down into smaller plexes, I guess I would call it. Instead of 8 plexes, you have 4 plexes. I think that breaks it up more. I'm sure that's probably what you don't like about it though, right? I guess that's gonna be my question. What is the thing that you guys don't like?
No, we like it just fine. In fact, the 6s tend to do better. The only reason we had 7s was because the code talks about a 10,000 square foot footprint, and that fit a 7-plex.
Okay,
And so we were trying to design to the code.
okay,
I could respond, I mean, you asked what doesn't work for us.
yeah,
And the short answer is, it's not that there's one thing, it's the aggregate. And I can break this down into numbers for you. This is the cheapest ground that I own right now. I've got 36 active projects going across the state. And per unit, this is my cheapest grant, including property that I own that is for apartments. And yet I am currently losing money with this design. And the things that are pushing us over, the fact that I've got some double fronted roads. When I have, or I'm sorry, single front roads, when I have a road that doesn't get me units on both sides, or there's a lot of corners, it doubles my development cost per door, and I can sometimes make that work, or usually I can make that work in the event that I have lots of units that are double fronted. I can kind of amortize a loss on these units with the others. This one, it doesn't work out very well. I've effectively got two public streets that I'm building that I'm not getting any units off of. I've got other streets that are providing for those units. The other thing that pushes me over is just kind of my impact fees. We have the impact fees for my water, for secondary, and then I've got to pay your parks gift.
Ours, Charlotte.
Mine.
So,
Early memorial gift.
okay, so there isn't one thing. Now, I can hypothesize on what could work here. For example, I could take this layout, I could lose, let's call it 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 units through there. Create some more open space, some parking on the end of that open space, lose those units. And then if I did a waterwise, like we're talking about in Loman View, and then if I could put this road in, this public road on the west side, and call that part of my parks donation, all of a sudden this starts to pencil very well. But right now, as drawn, I'm losing $250,000, which is mind blowing to me considering that this is my cheapest ground. I've paid more per door for ground up in Tremonton that I'm making work beautifully than what I'm doing here. And it's just an aggregate of a lot of little things. The front and rear load is a big deal. I am $10,000 less on the value for front and rear load, where these are our rear load. We're trying to face those public streets. I agree, it's a great looking product. It can sell, but it is worth less. And so these are just kind of the things that are impacting us and what we're trying to do. So if we can, and what Sel kind of led off asking, if we knew what was most important, we could kind of hold the line on those items and try and push in something that could work, and we would have to build something. So it's not everything. What's pushing me over the edge? Well, it's a little of everything. So if we could switch up a few little things, then we could make it work. But this road on the west side, that's new. If I don't have to put utilities in it, if it's just asphalt and curb and gutter, and if I could call that part of my parks donation, since the park's the one that's going to benefit from it, great, I can make that work because I'm starting to offset things. But putting in the extra infrastructure that I'm not being able to directly tie to a unit is one of the big things that's killing us.
But again, we don't know if the park's gonna really be there.
Don't know yet.
It'd be nice to know.
Yeah, it'll be a lot
You mean
easier.
the part that was designated? I don't think you could recapture that as land, but you can still use it. Does that make sense?
You can keep it from being a park.
Right, yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, I mean, as I understand it, is the way you sit, you've got it zoned as a park, it looks like a park, it smells like a park, but it's not a park.
And he still owns it.
And he still owns it. You've got two commissioners that have swore on oath in public hearings that they're not gonna let him do anything but a park there. But that, until somebody's willing to condemn it, it's his farm ground.
Is that the part that you put here on?
Yeah.
So I have a suggestion. If we allow like this entire block here to be townhomes and just kept the single family on these right here, let it kind of blend because we're just distributing that density a little bit better. What concerns me about the 20-foot garages isn't necessarily just the garage, it's the overflow parking and what happens, and these ones don't have driveways, correct?
Correct.
So there is nowhere else for the cars to go, so if we distributed that density and then maybe, you know, opened up to the middle here a little bit for a little bit more common type space, opened up to the middle somehow, but gave more units around here and then created more parking for what will inevitably happen. I mean, I don't know, where is it in Ogden? They've got some apartment buildings. They're like, oh, everyone's gonna use public transit. Yeah, because nobody uses public transit in Utah. And tell you what, everyone's gonna own a car because public transportation is never gonna be adequate to not own a car in Utah, unless you're in Salt Lake City. There's a news flash there.
And even then,
And even then, they all own a car and you park it somewhere, so you have to provide a place to put the cars, even if people use it. Anyways, it's a disaster there, and all the surrounding residents have nowhere to park, the people, and then it affects your property value. So in the long run, you might be able to sell the first half, but then when everyone sees the cars line up, they're gonna be like, well, wait, I don't have anywhere to park.
I
So-
think based on what we're seeing parking wise and utilization of some of our other projects. And this is not shown to that level, but if we did a quarter, let's call it visitor parking.
Mhm.
Or if we had a quarter parking stall per unit, so 1 unit per 4 stalls. We see that working pretty well. Right now, this is about 1 to 5.
I think you need 1 to 2 with the size of the garages, and I'd be willing to, like I said, push that density out and figure out how to provide it without losing units, or,
If we do it 1 to 2, what gets parked there is not cars. It's trailers, it's boats, it's other things that belong in
but this is an
a,
HOA, correct?
oh yeah, all townhomes have to have an HOA.
So,
It's still what happens, and then the HOA has their own fights and they're trying to enforce it and creates problems, but that's what ends up there because.
I've seen that in HOA places that when I was an HOA president, I haven't seen those in HOAs. I think that to be a problem, but I haven't seen anyone actually allow it to continue as a problem.
So what you're saying is. Down here, put more of your units,
Yeah,
and create a greenery in here.
and then open it up through here in the middle, make
And then
this corridor. I mean, maybe there's a better way to do it, however,
There was a version that had that, where the pathway corridor through the center had some parking. Actually, the pathway doubled kind of as a active parking as well as the pathways. So.
or it could be more green to the middle, and then, somehow figure out in the layout, just, I think,
That's that.
I think we need 2 parking spaces for 4plex.
This is a
There is
previous
not
version.
single driveway.
that's a previous version.
Yes,
previous. I think it is too, I agree with that. And I empathize, I'm gonna say, I guess, on the parks donation for the road. But where we don't know if this is gonna be a park, I can't, in my mind, at least at the moment, justify saying, well, if you put the road in, that'll take care of your parks donation. I can't do that because this density to me needs to have some open space. We had open space, we don't have it. So, or we don't know what we have, let's put it that
Right.
way. So to me, that, I can't go with you that far. I'm with Sarah on needing more parking, and I agree that keeping the same amount of units or reasonably the same amount of units to gain some more parking, I think is important. Agree with that.
Could we get away with doing the road dedication without putting that road in?
Well, something to think about on that note, the road cross sections are designed so that parking can happen on both sides. In these village areas, parking, on-street parking is really important. I know the plow drivers hate it, and we're gonna try and keep the more suburbanized areas, keep parking on.
In the winter.
That's right, plow drivers hate it, but where you got the increase in density, I would expect to see parking on both sides of the streets.
But there's just, these private streets, the whole thing is,
So,
there's, you
not-
have it on this side here.
Not the private streets, just the public streets, just the two, there's, the
Oh,
east side.
those 2, well, that's not a lot, that's enough for
Sorry.
just these houses.
The west side that says private, we're asking for that to be public.
This one right here. Oh, okay, yeah.
And so it'll be built to the full public standard to the back of curb,
So
which is a
these-
48-foot
So
wide.
we have some parking along.
Okay, so then to Aaron's point, is that just a half that they have to Does that developer?
It's what we call half, which the engineers say that we call it the half street, because it's not half. You're building the whole street, the only thing you're not building is
Curb
the,
gutter sidewalk on the other side.
the park strip and the sidewalk. You're still building the curb.
It's gotta have
Oh, yeah,
curb
curb
gutter.
gutter, but not, sorry, yeah,
The
the,
park strip
Park strip.
and the trees and the sidewalk don't get included, so it's only a 48-foot wide right of way, and then if the neighboring property does become a park, then meandering paths and trees until your heart's delight, if it becomes a subdivision, the landowner puts in the sidewalk in the park strip. So you've got the asphalt road to get parking on both sides there. It's still narrow, but that was with purpose for that.
And one of the things you'll see, Sarah, that's all the parking inside. All of the smaller lots or those are something that Charlie suggested.
these ones right here.
Yeah, just to prevent people from parking on the street and to help with the fire.
And there's just like 2 for 16 units.
Well, I also left room for utilities and things. I needed to.
So if you take all the potentials. And not asking you to get this number now, but I'd kind of curiously like to know. If you take all the potentials for parking, on-street parking and the stalls that are being provided in this layout. And all of the parking potential of the garage area. What does that give you? What's the number? Then all of that's taken into account.
So let's see.
And if that's too big, too tall of an order, don't worry about it.
Oh, not too tall. I'm pretty sure I've got this on the Google Earth. Let's see there.
I remember the average cars is like 2.5 per house nowadays.
The piece of home.
Yeah.
Garden, yeah.
Depending on how many bedrooms.
And the public street on the west side is just going to butt up to a park? If it continues to stay a park?
If it's a park, right? What is anybody remember what the standard is for parallel parking?
About 20 feet.
Only 20?
It is 26.
20. I don't know if
For parallel.
20. Oh, it's 20. Okay, that was 20.
And so we've got,
I get the concern with we don't have the parking, you're gonna park in front of it. And then there's my what time of year from,
Yeah.
everybody has, so.
And if you have, say you want to have your parents over on a Sunday night, they got a park, the neighborhood's over. I think these are real problems people are dealing with. And I know you're worried about selling them, but most people don't think about when they're buying, they're just looking at that bottom line. And then it's.
You mistake this. We're worried about building in the first place.
Yes.
We're still losing money. I'm not spending $14 million on this to lose money.
Well, I don't understand because this is zone 1 house per acre. Right?
Right, but when we picked this up, we had an approved drawing that expired while we were in lawsuits with our good friend Brett. And when we came back trying to get it done, what was previously approved, it had expired and we were told, no, don't worry. You got a bunch of zone, we've changed the zone and now we get a bunch of density here. And we said, okay, we won't worry. And here we are, still worrying. This again is the cheapest ground I own. And because of all the layers of design and requirements, I still can't make it work. It is mind blowing to me. I agree with your frustration that we should be able to make it work, but there's just so many layers, it just doesn't.
Do you remember from that very first one that was approved, I guess it was, like, how much this has changed from that?
that was all single family.
This the one, this one.
Yeah.
The PRUD, original PRUD, right?
So it was less than this, right?
Oh, yeah, we're like 40 units.
The answer to that question,
Would you rather go-
it's about 145.
45 spaces total.
Total.
Outside of the crosswalks. That's what I'm saying.
Yes, but just on the streets.
Just on the street.
This looks great, you wanna go back to this?
I break even on that one. I make no money, but I do break even.
So that'll be
And-
better than this?
Well, yeah, because this one I'm losing money. The break even though does not meet your street layouts.
Doesn't have the connectivity.
Does not have the connectivity and the other things that you guys are requesting.
I think we could do some small tweaks to make this work though, can't we?
We don't have to rezone the property form base, we could do a different zone. We could do both this, and phase one as R115.
I mean, I know the neighbors out there would like this.
They would like that a lot better.
Yeah. Yeah, if that's the concern, then maybe we look back at that.
The reason that works better is because everything is double fronted. I don't have any single fronted or no fronted roads. So I have better use of my streets. My park donation goes way down because I have less donation to make. I have less units.
Maybe that would be better all around.
Or could you figure out the streets?
Which would you rather, yes? Or something like this?
For me, it's all about the math. It's,
You'd rather have something like this?
yeah, I just want something that I'm not gonna go bankrupt on.
What did we like about this?
I think things just changed.
And what's the average size, are those like quarter acre lots?
They're a little less, weren't they like, 8,000-9,000? 8 or 9,000 square foot, I think.
Okay.
Most of these are around 10,500, 14,700.
You laugh.
Are you using this?
Yeah.
It's so light on it. I didn't even know it's lit
That's
up.
what they're for.
I mean, I'm not.
It's impressive.
I would. Right, come on. Gus.
So quarter acre, that makes sense.
That is less infrastructure.
I don't wanna persuade you guys one way or
They're
another.
all 10, but their corners are a little bit bigger so they can accommodate setbacks. They're about between 11 and 12.
You can make the streets work. I mean, I think it's a better fit.
You
I
can't
think
make the
that's a
street,
better fit for our community out there.
that's the issue.
So,
The moment you start tweaking to make your streets work, it flip over to this exact same problem that I have here.
so
So-
the work, quote unquote work, I think Aaron's talking about is keeping the streets the layout that it was. So if you keep the streets the layout that it was, you don't have the street connectivity.
Is that this right here?
Public streets.
That they
private
got?
streets.
Sorry.
You know,
Yeah.
the original.
How
So,
much,
but that's okay.
yeah, how much are we losing there because we don't really know what's happening
Right.
west?
Right.
For right now, I think we better.
I think it's.
How does it affect our connectivity big scale? If the park goes in,
So
so we at
we've
least
got-
have the stuff and then the road goes on the park's land.
We've got the properties to the north, all that stuff to the south, so we would need to figure out how to pick those up. So that would
And that
require some
affects
changes
everything.
there. Yeah,
Park.
But this is the problem. As soon as I start losing lots, cause then
And it
that one doesn't
matter.
work either. And so, we just bring that up because we really are willing to kind of,
Did you see this?
and let's say we make any changes to that one, says, well, you're losing the density that you need for your commercial. When we do something like that. All the efforts that you guys have been putting into your form-based code, that doesn't achieve any of the goals.
We don't have to do form-based.
We don't.
I know, but that's consistent with your master plan.
It'll change.
Your general plan has the map that you just approved tonight, or recommended for approval tonight. This doesn't conform to that at all.
We don't know if we're getting the park that's on the general plan, right?
How does this lay out to this? Sorry, is it like? Yeah, okay, goes like that.
Yeah.
I got it.
that's what I was gonna say is, I don't wanna persuade you one way or the other. I had a good conversation at our meeting last time about density and how to make sure we have something that can support commercial out there. If that's important to us, at some point, we'll need to say density is okay, but that doesn't mean that's now. Maybe that's later, maybe we slowly ease into it, property by property.
We like the density and we can make the density work with some nuance on how we're looking at the form-based code. Any change that you make to that plan to get it to work, we can make to one of these plans and also get it to work. It's just a matter of which change, and that's where Sel led off appropriately the conversation. What's most important? Is it the road connectivity? Is it the forward-facing garages? Is it the, what are the things that sit at the top of the list? And we can come up with a plan to make it work, but we're really struggling. And I, quite frankly, am surprised at the struggle we're having on this one. I would think this would be one of my easiest ones,
I think that,
but it's just not.
sorry.
Here, go ahead, I'm done.
I think the reason why it's such a, it's the location. I mean, that's where we're kind of visioning the town, whatever we're calling, we don't know what we're calling, we keep throwing things around, but this, the central part of it, right? And yeah, town center. And so I think it's really crucial that we get it right in that area for that, because especially where there's so many unknowns right next to you. I think that, in my opinion, from the community, what they've said and what we've talked about in these meetings, that seems to be why it's a little bit more crucial in that area, because it's not out by itself somewhere.
Now, we
It's a
could,
stark contrast as well between what is there now versus what would be there, so.
Yeah.
Matching is gonna be a lot harder. We were talking about this earlier today, as staff, our engineers hated it just from a density perspective. But our engineers also aren't constantly reading the general plan like you guys are, so that they were a little bit behind the curveball, I think, when we were talking about this being a village note for some reason. But I think at the end of the day, what the big thing was, well, I guess you gotta start somewhere. We were talking a little bit about what improvements should we be asking for on 900 South.
Well, cause 900 is that's a big, I feel like 900 is a huge issue if you do this density.
Yep.
So then there's another cost that you're like, well, so Aaron, hey, we need some road improvements on 900 all the way to what, 4,700? I mean, what do you do there? That's
Yep.
another cost.
All of these questions, good questions that,
I mean, not to be, but you know, that road is terrible.
Yeah, that's already under agreement.
so it's very much a stark difference, drawing a line in the sand between the rural that's there now and a couple of, across the street, there's some 3-acre lots, I think. Of course, right next door, you got some houses going up that are at a higher density, and so is it the appropriate transition? Is it the appropriate time? All the right questions to be asking. If you could get more density here, you would herald in the commercial market faster, but faster might not be better. Really just kind of, I'm double speaking to give you guys comfort on both sides.
well, there is really no comfort for me, because, okay, so we've got Black Pine, that's directly across the street from this. I mean, you can chuck a rock, you don't have to chuck very hard. And you've got that's turned into something, I mean, it was hashed as ag protected 2 days ago. I mean, 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Even less than 2 years.
At their request.
At their request. And now we're looking at something there that's way different than when we did the general plan as well.
Yeah.
So what does this whole area look like now? Is what we have on the general plan right for this area? That's what I go back to and start questioning. And then it comes back to the conversation, the case started about the single family units that's on the.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like, okay. Yeah, what do we want this area to look like? And what works best? From the perspective of what the community would want, that works the best. The old works better than the new.
Yeah.
From the perspective of what we passed more recently than that general plan, it's gotta be something like this. So where do we go with this? I think we can make something like this work if we just have and I support it. For lots of reasons. But for me, we're gonna have to be very nuanced in some of how we make it apply, but you mentioned the idea of apartment buildings. By the time I do an apartment building and the parking that go with it, you will not get as much park space as you think you're getting, but you will get some more because we can put it together, but we just.
It reads a little better, it's not gonna be.
It is not, but just like.
I'll get scalped.
Yeah, and well, the flip side is, I also don't have a market for apartment buildings, just like I don't have a market for commercial right now. It'll come, and it's coming quicker every day. But those apartment buildings are gonna wanna be next to your bypass road, your freeway.
Right.
They are not gonna be here. Even though this might be where some of your shopping and things is, they're still gonna be commuting somewhere else that is not here.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's my concern, is we gotta rethink the density that we assigned here, because if you can't put apartment complexes here, 20 units per acre doesn't look good as a town.
If the market won't sustain.
Apartments, yeah. so
Now,
it's
we
fine.
could go with maybe a 3-story townhome there. And do a smaller footprint and make it work that way. There are some things that we could try, with that. But I don't wanna try it to get turned down more.
So there was 145 additional parking places, is that what you said, Charlie?
Yeah, subtract 10 just for.
So that's 130 even.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess when we're doing, I'm worried about throwing our highest density in first before the roads have a chance to catch up. I'd rather see this go in, because this is very high density compared to what we have out there right now, from what I understand.
Yep.
Start with this and then let the roads catch up a little, and then when we have other proposals come in, maybe work towards a density like this. But this isn't gonna build a commercial space in and of itself. It'll help when we start filling in pieces with something more dense, but I'm nervous about it.
No, but you're gonna need that kind of density in that whole area to justify enough commercial space.
So,
No,
and
we're
that is,
definitely gonna need the density, it's just a matter of like
Where.
Right.
so maybe it's our street regulating.
You
plan
have
and
it-
The densities assigned to it that are not working.
Your plan's pretty good on where you're putting it. Your plans are great. I don't wanna toot your planning department's horn, but the kind of master planning on how they've laid this out, there's the general idea and concepts of how they're doing both your commercial and your density is actually pretty good. Commercial doesn't go as deep as it used to, unless you're doing a big shopping center. But your major roads are 4,700, that is your master plan that you're trying to push. And this is right next to it, it's where it needs to go.
Excuse me.
That's
So
your-
there's 43 of the churches on? 41. Which church, well, which church?
The one at the.
The one just up from the school?
Yeah, the white one.
41.
Cause that road, I mean, that's not gonna handle this density either. Neither of them.
So 43 exists, and 43 will need to be improved at some point in time.
43 goes over tees into 1150.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
And in a real bad place.
yep. Yeah, 43, so we've talked with the engineers a little bit about that, trying to figure out how do we incentivize traffic to go to 47 and up, as opposed to 43? Or, is it time to start talking, this is the hard part, these are the growing pains of building a community, especially a community from scratch. Sometimes you gotta do it wrong in order to know how to do it right. The other big ticket item that we're talking about with engineers is if we're looking at density like this, we're looking at, the need to upgrade roads. At what point is the county gonna bite the bullet and start buying front yards? Because, I mean, think about 3600 West, think about 4100, 4300. People still own to the center line of the road on some of those things, and you can tell a developer, you can't do development until you've gone and bought all these properties, but it works a lot better if the county is the one on the front end, offering to buy those front yards. So that's a big lift to ask a county to do as well.
I just know what we've done in the other developments in that general area lately and making them do all those road improvements. And it was a big stickler. So I worry about community being upset with those roads being so long without the improvements with this and then.
Yeah.
They got a new commission coming in.
So something else to think about, there's a lot of impact fees. A lot of impact fees that could be pulled out of this project here. Our impact fees divide the amount based off of whether it's multifamily or single family, and our code calls this single family attached. And so there's some impact fee dollars that come out of this. Maybe it's not an impact fee dollar, maybe it's an impact fee credit that is converted into the form of improving 900 and 4100, or looking at how that pencils
Yeah,
out.
we could look at improving across to 4700, it's not that far. And taking that as a impact fee credit, then the upgrade's been done. the upgrade benefits the school that you have on that same road. I mean, there's some other things that we can look at.
Honestly, I would be willing to entertain that just because I feel like that's a long stretch to be, have one person be responsible.
Well, the road is the old existing road.
Yeah.
There's not much of a road there.
No, yeah, that's what I mean, but to have one person be responsible for it when we have potential of more development on the exact same road, that's really not fair to the one landowner.
So I really don't like impact fees because it's hard
Yeah.
to, the way the state law works is it's hard to get enough money to actually justify an expense to do a project. And then once you do have enough money, you've got to create a project. The county has to manage and all that. If the county's responsibility was limited to make sure there's enough right of way for a developer to install the roads that are being impacted by the development, there's no reason for impact fees. Developer can put that in, as long as we can find a way to make that fair, you know, for both the public and the developer. I'd much rather see that done, and to be frank with you guys, we're probably hedging towards that over on 3600 West, both for Heritage's other project, but also for the 6 projects that Nelson's bringing.
Well, it puts the improvement where the improvement needs to be.
At the time that
At the time it needs to be
in advance,
Right.
Being
Right.
agreed.
And so, yeah.
Could we try something? Let me ask this question, and this is only in an effort for us to both advance the conversation tonight and give us something to work on as we move forward. We actually kind of like some of this smaller single family because there is a market for it. If we take some of this, let us tweak it, look at extending that road. I understand the need for some additional parking. It may come and park space, it may come by shrinking some of the spaces between these buildings a little bit. And maybe combining a couple of these to create some more park space and some more parking. Let us just if we can make some tweaks to this. And the last one I'd ask, could we count some of this as some impact fee credit possibly? If I can do those things, I might be able to make this one work. If we think we're close, we're willing to do that, but if we're not close at all, I don't wanna waste the time.
Well, I think this is as close as we've ever been from what I've gathered. As far as this type of development, we'll just go back to the sketch of what was originally laid out. I think that would be what everybody would be most comfortable with. But, you know, that's not something you can work with, and we don't need.
And I think the moment you start tweaking with that one, because you're gonna want the connectivity and we end up at the exact same.
Right, and
place.
I would at least want the connectivity out of it.
Yeah,
So
we
if
looked at
can't make
that
That
and-
work, that's fine. I was just using that as the example, the comparison between,
Sure.
you know. I think that this is as close as you've come to, you know, to having something that we can work with. And Charlie, I'd like to get a little more information on those impact fee credits and how that would apply, you know, to improvements, to the road improvements and that kind of thing. In the meantime, and commissioners,
I have one question for both Charlie and Subway, like, when we look at the trail that's coming between all the townhomes, right? Like, just because I don't know, so not that it's wrong or right, but it seems like a long road for somebody to go through to get to their place down here or even in the middle. Is that really as long as it's filling for me on this paper?
I would make the argument that it's not. Matter of fact, the long length of that, of our property, if you take the full length, that is about what you're seeing as a city block here in Ogden.
Okay, oh, that makes sense, yeah.
that must.
Because when you see it long like this, it's like, oh, that's.
Sure.
But
Yeah.
then as you say that, I'm thinking, well, it's only 3 places.
When I was a kid, I walked that muskrat ditch down through there endlessly. And it seems like it's a long way, especially when you're a kid.
And barefoot, go ahead.
Look how he turned out.
You know,
Now it's all bitter and mean.
But no.
You wonder why.
No, it's not that bad. It's not. It's a
I
lot
just
easier to
want-
walk
yeah,
now than it used to be.
Sure, I just wanna make, cause you know, when you're seeing it just on one. page,
Sure.
you can't walk.
And they would, and last time I kind of looked at it, Charlie may have better information than Tammy. People will walk a 1/4 mile to a park. Once you go past that, they start to drive. this, you're not even a quarter, you're half of a quarter. A quarter of a mile isn't even the length of my property. So from a walking standpoint, I'm well within a tolerance of what people are
So
gonna.
it's not a big deal to try to just up through, okay. I wasn't worried about the walking distance, I knew that was close, I just wondering, since this is the private road behind all those other eyes. But I'm just thinking about those being close together and if you have being.
Now, yes, it will feel like a long ways if you're parked out on the street carrying groceries.
Main.
Right.
They don't know what American commodity foods are. Okay, did we give you your?
I think so. And let me repeat what I heard, and somebody tell me if I'm wrong. If we can increase our parking a little bit, I'm not gonna make it to our 2 units, but I can get closer.
What's standard for state? 2 units per residence, like standard for Weaver County. 2 units per residence, but when you get to higher densities, the number goes down. So if we're looking at apartments, it might be more like 1.5 units.
But these aren't apartments.
So we would stick with 2.
The problem we have here is that my garage counts as the 2 units.
I say,
Which means we're over.
I say we gotta stick to what's normal, not veer off of it because of personal preferences.
If this was not a rezone, state code would prohibit us from asking for more parking. Because every residence is providing.
But it is a rezone, which is okay, because that's in our plan anyway.
Although I will say to Sarah's credit, her concern about
That's
20.
not who I was talking about.
Her concern about 20-foot wide garages, she was saying on the inside, you're not gonna have more than 19 feet, right? State code says we can't hassle them if the inside of the garages are 19 or 20 feet wide. So
As the developer said, they're selling, and they are big enough for a car. And they always gotta be, I mean, they just can't put their junk in the garage, right? That's all it eliminates.
Or they have to use an e-bike.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is.
You can hang that up on the wall.
That's what I mean, like,
Garage on the
you
inside,
can-
one car, and you have to.
choose all your places.
Yeah,
I agree with you.
Right.
And then
We
with
can't
the
decide what the
driveways,
market is.
So technically, you probably have 2 people living in these because people can't afford to live there by
on
themselves.
their own, right?
Because you need the income. So you do need the parking, especially if you're gonna have 2 public streets. And if you're parking on those.
I wanna go back and have Aaron finish what he understands, because you were on the right track with the parking.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm. Go through that. I'm actually not gonna add more units up here. I'm gonna leave it like it is. We are obviously asking for a little bit because I do have those townhomes there on that corner. We're gonna try and push some of this. We get more park space, more parking. We'll leave this in. But we're gonna look at it from a standpoint of what we can do with impact fee credits to get some of the other infrastructure, including trying to get more out on 900.
And with us getting a good definition of what that looks like.
Yes, and I think Charlie and I can work together on what the numbers are with this project. Yeah, and we can. Wish that I had my other 2 projects that I just sold to still play with, because then we could horse trade a little bit better there, but.
Were you talking about more parking on 900? Is that what you said?
No.
We've got much on parking on 900 as we can get, I think.
Matter of fact, we could take parking off of 900 if you wanted.
I thought those were staying as 3-story with, I remember the discussion about the mixed use commercial.
Yeah.
But, which is no longer a requirement, but.
Multifam still requires that street cross section in form based, and so if we did take that parking off, we would just need to make sure we put it in the development agreement, say it's not required.
And we could, anyway, so and we may come back and say, hey, can we do the asphalt but not the curb and gutter? I mean, I'm grasping at dollars, just trying to get it close but not quite, and see if we can get.
You mean the parkway?
Yeah, so the potential future park, if I did
full asphalt width, curb and gutter on my side, but not the curb and gutter on the other side.
Can I throw another wrench into it? When I'm looking at this,
We're trying to pull wrenches out.
sorry, it might be to your benefit. When I'm looking at the east side of this, those homes that are there and that main street, you have townhomes across the street that are gonna have the front of that is facing that public street, but they don't have access to the street other than walking, right?
Correct.
Okay. The private road behind it is where they're gonna access their things. What if we allowed them to have front facing garages on that and eliminate that one street? Cause I mean, for me, it's, if I was living in one of those, yeah, I got a private street behind me, but then I'm surrounded by two major streets, really. Even though one's considered
What
private.
side of the street is that? Is that a street size that will allow for that though?
Well, they would be able to have a little bit more room.
You
Is that-
mean with access limitations? It's a minor residential, so we would
Okay.
normally allow driveways.
Okay.
Yeah,
And even if not, if you got rid of a street, you push them back a little.
If I got to,
From the private.
From the main one, the public road on this small part,
This one changes, no, this on top of this side, check. So this public street, yeah, this is all.
that should save some money, right? For getting rid of a street, whether it's private or public, it's still a street.
well, yeah, and what I was gonna say on that note, if we do that, we would probably do a variation that we looked at before, where we continue back with those front entry garages, with the backyards looking out on some common ground. What that does to help me out the moment I do that is those are worth $10,000 more per lot for me.
See,
And-
well,
I
I
don't
don't
like
like
the idea of having, just like Casey, a road on both sides for your unit.
yeah.
Backed up is much more.
And I feel like, I mean, I know we really like this rear facing garage thing for the looks. But when I'm thinking about visitors and things like that, if you have a front facing. And you have, especially on this one, if you could push them back a little bit by getting rid of that private road, you have a bigger
And you could
driveway.
have driveways.
That's gonna give you more parking too.
Let's do this then. Let me bring back two plans. One that keeps everything rear loaded, because this is all rear loaded. And then we will come back and we'll bring one that is, I don't know if I will say all front loaded, but let's for now say that it's all front loaded. And I'll show you what the price difference is on what we can get for you.
Do we want all front loaded? I just don't want you to waste your time, or is it just on this one
The
street?
moment that I do that, it shouldn't matter once I go back on those private streets. Right?
Yeah, it takes two streets out of them, puts your units back to back with more greenery.
Does that
It
still
does.
get what the planner's goal was for the appearance and the street connectivity?
the form-based code wouldn't allow front-facing garage doors, but we can write it into a development agreement. So it really isn't about what I want, it's about what you guys want.
I'd like to see just one road, front facing. I like the way the rest of it is. If it can be made.
Do the one and then keep some, yes.
Yeah,
And I think you picked the right road because the one, if we do get apart, those park facing condos or townhomes or whatever, those are gonna be mint. You'll be, as long as they look good, you'll be able to see them from 4,700 facing, overlooking that green space. That'll be,
So for.
everyone's gonna wanna buy it.
yeah.
No one's gonna see it from 47. They're just gonna see trees between them and there.
That's true. After the trees are.
But it's just either way.
Yes.
Where'd you get this tree?
I'll tell you this, I mean, I moved from Denver and there's a park in the middle of Denver called Washington Park. And that real estate around that park, it's got a road on one side, or it's got a park on one side and houses on the other. And those houses along Washington Park are some of the most expensive houses in Denver. It's amazing how
You
valuable
go
it
there and
is.
call it Washington Park.
So. I like what we're talking about now, and I think that I would just like to see the one roll, the front facing, that's my preference. So on that option. And
This
then
one,
the
are you
parking,
talking about this one?
The east one.
right, the east,
How about this private one?
no, I'd like to leave the rest of it more the way it is with the rear load.
I can probably still make that work.
I like the look of it, and it fits what we're trying to do with form based to meet the, general plan.
If we're allowing front facing garages on the eastern street, would you allow that for the single family residences as well? Cause these guys have been trying to bend over backwards to find a way to make sure those residences don't have garages that face front. On the eastern single family lots.
Oh, I think that would be fine if the driveways face the road.
Yeah, I guess I didn't realize that they were facing on this.
Yeah, what- So what I'm doing here, when we have these side entries, these other streets coming in on the side, I'm putting the garages there so that they're not front facing. If I get to change that, I can actually add a lot on each one of those. The same size or similar size as this up here, and that helps quite a bit.
Driveways facing driveways. That's what we've always seen, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, people are gonna be very used to it, cause that's what,
I would be fine. with
I
that.
think it'll look weird to have driveways on one side and
Yeah.
nothing on the other side.
Yeah.
that would
I
be.
told you.
Can you add driveway
Not
lines?
a bad range.
What'd you say? We can, but then we'll be arguing about where they are.
Now I do.
Okay, so now maybe we need to recap with them, you understand what.
Yeah, I'm doing two plans. One is substantially the same as this. We're just kind of getting into the nitty gritty on some of the costs, and I'm gonna try and push things to the edges there a little bit, create some more green space and a couple more parking stalls. Plan number two, we'll have, I'm allowing driveways along this road on both sides. These become front facing, so I get to eliminate a street. And we will have a different ask on our impact fees and how we're using those
You're
things.
still gonna try to get the.
We'll try and get more parking in both cases.
Perfect.
We good?
Yep.
Okay, I think we can have our work done on this within a week, so if we could get on your next work session, that'd be great.
So that was my next question. You want a work session this one before a hearing?
I think for their sake, it's kind of.
Since I'm bringing two plans, I think that'd be beneficial.
Okay.
I think it's more fair.
Sarah's gonna get mad if we don't bring this back to another work session and she doesn't get to talk about parking again.
I just remember,
Live close, right? You could go talk to her like,
Our daughters are very good friends. We do not live close. I cannot afford her.
I just remember the no front facing garages on that street. I believe that was the point that Sarah. Brought in one of the meetings, so she'll probably get no vote on that, but.
Since we spent much time here, do we get a locker?
You can keep these too, by the way. No, I don't.
You
No,
know,
I got these for you guys to keep. I know.
You're building cubbies when put your names on them.
You have to hand me tomorrow back.
Andrew, I think they were $6.
Subway will bring you a new one every day.
Yeah, you wanna just have them handed back in or something?
Keep it.
I'm gonna use it in every one of my meetings. So
No, I mean, that's what it's for.
I didn't get as many giggles when he made as I thought I would have. I love that, Jack.
Thank you very much.
No, thank you. Thanks, guys.
We'll chat soon, probably sooner than.
Sooner than you want.
Sooner than I want.
I can promise you that.
Yes. Okay, sounds good. Thank you. No, thank you guys.
Well, appreciate it.
Thanks.
Actually, this will help workflow a little bit if I'm not getting ready for a hearing next meeting. That's nice. Hey.
Great. Good work, so boy.
I really do like this process. This is a lot of fun. They really.
You would not have said that a month or two ago.
I was gonna say,
No, I still did.
this is the first time you got a good work, so.
Yeah.
Even when Andrew and I are going to.
Yeah.
And we can figure out. I know.